In this week's astrology, we start the mood with the moon in the sign of Taurus. Now, Uranus has been in the sign of Taurus for quite some time. It's halfway through its transit. It's currently sitting in those middle points, those middle degrees of Taurus. And every time the moon transits the sign of Taurus, it conjuncts this very rebellious, unique, eccentric energy of Uranus. And it's really evolving the way that we feel emotionally, the topics on self-care, self-love, because the moon exalted in the sign of Taurus concentrates on focusing on your own value system and your resources and your resourcefulness. Also, how you care for yourself and how this care radiates out and also influences everyone else you care for, especially if you're a mother. That's a topic of the moon. So self-care is one of my big things this year. Doing a lot of things to care for myself so I can have enough fuel to care for those that I love, for my children, my family. And the moon conjuncting Uranus really tests us to evolve ourselves. So we do start this week with a very grounded energy, yet because Uranus has been in this sign and kind of shaking the foundation, it's not as grounded. Just envision how lightning can also cause the earth to break, right? Like pierce through the earth and shake in the foundation. That's really what I see when this moon conjuncts Uranus. And if you're one of the people that has natal planets in the fixed signs, and that's going to be Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, Aquarius, then every time there's this conjunction of the moon in Uranus, there's also a aspect, either by opposition or square, or even a conjunction to your natal planets in Taurus. So it does evolve and shaken up your foundation. So that's how we started off the week, with that really nice type of divination, more like epiphany filled day. And then on Monday, the moon ingresses to the sign of Gemini right at midnight, and that this is at 12:34 p.m. PST. And the moon makes a square to Venus on that same day as well at 9:23 PST. So now we're talking about two feminine planets, in mutable signs, communicating through the square energy, something that needs to be acted on. And this could be a emphasis on home and money matters, or your sacred space, and needing to change it, needing to move the energy around to feel more abundant. The need to address issues within the home, or your extended family. And this could be issues that come about due to women that are in need. So it could be your friends that come to you for some, matters, or matters of the heart that they're dealing with. So the square is pushed through energy. Now, luckily, that same day, the moon makes a sextile to Jupiter. And sextiles are also pretty positive because they assist. And Jupiter, is a planet that likes to share its merits and share its abundance. So at the end of the day, although there is a square to Venus, Jupiter comes in and can lighten up the energy. So looks like a resolution could come to fruition. that same day, we have the moon conjuncting Mars, which since Mars has been in Gemini, when the moon transits the sign of Gemini, it makes this conjunction to Mars, and it'll continue doing this little dance with Mars until Mars leaves Gemini later on in March of this year. And we're talking about cutting things out. It could be cutting thoughts, words that we say, beliefs, or how we communicate these beliefs. There's something that needs to be cut out from our emotional body, from our emotions, from our emotional memory. Our subconscious memory needs to be removed so we can continue moving forward. So again, push through energy. And lastly, on Monday, the moon makes a trine to the sun, and that's also very, very beautiful. So there's a mixed bag energy on Monday, because we do have some tougher aspects, then we have some very supportive aspects. And the moon trine the sun is always a very joyful, lighthearted, especially in the air signs, because both planets are in air signs, and we're talking about mutable and fixed air coming together. So there is something that needs to change, yet not shake up the foundation, because fixed energy likes to maintain, yet mutable energy is ready to transform and shapeshift to another mode, another feel, another season, right? So we have this beautiful moon making a trine to the sun, reminding us of our life purpose and our career path. So I always see the moon sun contacts by trine and sextile as little pockets of sunshine where we can really think of like the next steps we can take towards fulfilling our goals, dreams, aspirations, things like that. Plus, if you manifest with the moon, this is also part of that cycle, right? Because the moon and sun conjuncting is a new moon, and we set our intentions during that time. So this is the trine aspect. This is the point where the moon is growing, because we're still in this point, we're still in the waxing phase. So you're going to see some growth with the manifestation that you set in place. Now on Tuesday the 31st, we have the moon sextile Chiron in the sign of Aries, which is very healing, and it does this monthly, assisting us with healing our deepest wounds, our deepest pains. And this is where we see some tough aspects come into play. The moon in Gemini squares Neptune. I like to describe this energy as very confusing. And this is happening at 11:20 p.m. So be very mindful around this time. Hopefully by this time you're home and you're not driving, you're not operating heavy machinery. It's very daydreaming energy, so you can actually not be on your P's and Q's, and it can cause some accidents because of not fully being alert. Now, this is great energy for meditation, for going to sleep early, for resting, going to the spa, getting a massage, like relaxing, like really getting lost in being lost, really getting into the energy of retreating yourself from daily responsibilities and just giving yourself a break, a spiritual break, a mental break, whatever it is. So there is some positives that we can use this aspect for, and that's one of them. Then on February the 1st, we have the moon going void of course for about 8 hours and 13 minutes. And that's after it makes a trine to Saturn in Aquarius. So for 8 hours all the way until 12:11 p.m. when the moon goes into the sign of Cancer, we don't have any other aspects but that moon trine Saturn aspect at 3:58 a.m. And the moon and Saturn, I feel like they have a very close relationship, as the moon rules the sign of Cancer and Saturn rules the opposing sign of Cancer, which is Capricorn. So they do have a relationship and they can work together. They're the natural rulers of the home and career and life purpose. So they rule that axis. So I do feel that Saturn brings a tad bit more responsibility to the lighthearted moon energy. Yet when it's a trine, it's very supportive, as it can provide you some mental clarity, which is much needed after that moon square Neptune the day prior. So you'll start off the day with a little bit more heaviness and maybe more things to do because you probably took some time off the day before. And if you didn't, you might be feeling a little bit more burnt out because of the aspect the day before. But this is a day where you push through and you kind of, strap on your boots and you keep working. Be very careful because it is a void of course moon. Some craziness happened. I actually had one of my good astrology friends slash astrology student reach out to me and let me know that when they downloaded my Christology plug-in calendar on their phone, that the moon void of course tells them to go home. I found that funny because she's a Gemini rising, so moon void of course, it acts like Mercury retrograde and that's the alert that is given, like, watch out, it's moon void of course, be careful. So I just thought it was funny that it happened to her, that's the way that it got set up on her phone, because it's not a default that I put on. But yeah, so be extremely careful during this time. Moon void of course is actually really good to continue working on projects that are not finished. So it does take that energy of Mercury retro. If you know how to work with Mercury retro, then moon void of course pretty much can apply to Mercury retro. Like, just think of redo, revisit, right? All that energy of just like not starting something new, but continuing to work ethically and thoroughly, and also checking and making sure that you're not just submitting projects in a rush, because you'll make a lot of mistakes, especially if they're important. Now, if they're not important, it doesn't matter. They can send them back to you and then you correct those mistakes. No big deal. But if these are projects or work that needs to be done correctly, and you might get written up if you don't do it correctly, or it delays projects, which, can cause a lot of other issues within your work environment or business, then yes, make sure you take your time. Now, on Thursday the 2nd, we have the moon in Cancer making a few aspects that day. We start the day at 12:54 a.m. PST when the moon makes a square to Jupiter. Now, contexts to Jupiter I find them fairly positive. But now we have a flip in energy. We started Monday with the moon making a square to Venus. And on Thursday the 2nd, the moon makes a square to Jupiter. Yet 4 hours later, the moon in Cancer makes a trine to Venus. And on Monday, a little bit after that square, moon square Venus, we had a sextile of the moon and Jupiter. So it could be a repeating thing. Maybe whatever came up on Monday is now sorting itself out. You're still kind of addressing it, but now we have a flip of that energy. The moon is in another sign. It's in the sign of Cancer. So it is going to be seeing things through a different lens. And then the support with the aspect being Venus and Jupiter is also different. So we have, Jupiter maybe expanding the concentration of this topic, or the time that you're devoting to resolving this issue, or how much time it takes up in your day. And then we also have the trine to Venus, which could also say something about how the relationship, the conversation, because remember, Venus is a sign that rules having harmonious negotiations and conversations, and also women. So it could be that the way that you settle or you support whatever came about is much more positively expressed. So we also have the moon making a sextile to the north node, and at the same time it makes a trine to the south node, which is very supportive. And then we have the moon making a sextile to Uranus at 6:27. So again, triggering Uranus, but this is more positive, it's more spontaneous, and can cause a tad bit of nervousness, but not necessarily overwhelming. But now we're getting into the juicy stuff. Now I can say this week is not necessarily the hardest week of the year, because there's other aspects happening this year that are a little tougher, but it is one of the points in which can seem to be a little bit more strenuous. And the reason being too is because we're talking about fixed energy, and we have the nodes and fixed signs, and the planets are in the wobble point, which in evolutionary astrology we call skip steps. So this is when planets square the nodes, and the sun in Aquarius is going to square the Scorpio and Taurus node. And then we have the full moon at the end of the week. So we also have the moon triggering this point. So we have the moon squaring the north and south node as well. So this is like the middle of the eclipse season. This is a middle ground. It's a big deal because it forms a grand square. And the ground squares are all ruled by that energy of Mars, so it's quite forceful. So this is why it can be a tougher week versus easygoing, because of the fact that Mars's impulsivity is all over the chart, actually, with that energy of the square. So we start feeling it on Friday the 3rd, when the sun makes a square to Uranus at 15 degrees. And I feel that's even more prominent because it's right in the middle of the degrees. When we talk about 15 degrees, that's the middle point. So it's the most potent degree. It's the most potent point in a planet's transit, because it's right in the middle. So it actually takes the true essence of that sign. And this is going to be the 15 and 16 degree mark. So what does that mean? It means that whatever planet is there is really going to embody the archetype. Imagine an actor playing a role. At 15 degrees, this actor aces the role. This actor acts like a duck, quacks like a duck. It's a duck. So it ends up expressing the archetype really well because it's immersed in it. It doesn't matter what planet it is. So we have the sun at 15 degrees, and then we have Uranus at 15 degrees, and they both square at that point. So we have two pure archetypes. And then at the same time, the sun's also triggering the nodes, not by exact square, but it's still in orb. So this is where we see that, jolt of nervousness and maybe impulsivity and things just happening out of nowhere. So be extremely cautious with this energy. Then we move into Saturday the 4th, when the moon goes into the sign of Leo, and we really hear this energy roar, because now we're getting to the good stuff, because eventually we're going to have that full moon, which perfects on Sunday the 5th. And at the same time, it's going to make a square to the nodes, and it's also going to oppose Uranus, and it's going to oppose the sun. So all the fixed energy this week is going to be really highlighted, really concentrated. Take it easy if you're a Leo, Taurus, Scorpio, or Aquarius. Make sure that you are avoiding being extremely impulsive and reactive, and take your time. So really embody your fixed energy and soak in the information, gather facts, and then respond. That's going to be more beneficial for you than responding and thinking later, because of all this extra energy pushing the fixed signs. They might not make correct decisions or act correctly if they're leading with impulsivity. That's actually everything that's the opposite of fixed signs. Fixed signs like to maintain status quo. So because of the highlight there, we need to make sure that we don't allow the circumstances to get the best of us. And then we finish off the week with a full moon in the sign of Leo at 16 degrees. And that's on Sunday. And that's pretty much it. So as you can tell, it's quite a impactful, full of vibrant energy week. We started with a fixed moon in Taurus. We're ending with a fixed moon in Leo, and that's the mood of the week. And I can tell you the mood is going to be extra moody because of all the moon aspects that this week has. And the crystal of the week that I recommend is working with Amazonite, because of the moon aspecting a lot of planets, and also having a very long void of course on February the 1st, and then having some connection to that impulsive Uranus energy. Amazonite assists with our communication. It's also a great crystal to work with during Mercury retro or moon void of course periods, because it brings clarity. It brings calm energy. It soothes the nerves. So it's a very flowy type of crystal. It's also a light blue, like a tealish light color, which is connected to throat chakra, also throat. I feel it combines the throat and the heart chakra, and then makes that teal color. So it's the middle point of both of those chakras, and it really communicates speaking from the heart. So I really love working with Amazonite. It's a very beautiful, soothing stone. I recommend, especially on January the 31st, that you lie down, meditate for at least 5 minutes with this crystal, and I will place it right in the middle between the throat chakra and your heart chakra, and just let that come into alignment so you can balance your energy. So I really thank you for being here. And again, your energetic support is much appreciated. So if you're catching this on the podcast, a review would be appreciated. If you're catching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and comment below. I always respond. Thank you so much. Have a great week, and I'll check you guys out later. Goodbye.